here, if you look. The cross was built there in 1933, and it was built providentially when the whole world was commemorating the 1900th anniversary of Jesus Christ's Passion and Death. Holy Father Pius XI writes a letter, decree to the whole world and sends, please let every parish respond as much as they can by putting crosses on the public places. So this parish, 400 people living here, great poverty. They had only the old church of St. James. They were living in very poor circumstances. They say to their priest, we want to build a cross on the top of the highest hill in the area. And that was the highest hill in the area. And we want to build a cross that will be 9 meters tall, 10 meters tall. And we want to build it in the honor of 1900th anniversary of Jesus Christ's Passion and Death. And so they started, they sent a letter to the bishop. Bishops wrote to the Holy Father responds back. And by the end of the 1933, they received a letter from the Holy Father who sent them relic of the true cross on which Jesus was crucified that is kept normally in Rome. And you know that this is a big miracle because these relics are only in the important countries, in the important churches around the world. They would not end up in an unknown country that didn't even exist on the map, like our country in 1933. And they received the relic, and the relic was put in that cross, and they built the cross in less than 40 days. 40 days of extreme weather conditions, and the cross was completed and blessed on March 16, 1934. For years, they had special permission to celebrate Holy Mass on the top, on the Feast of Exaltation of the Holy Cross, which would be the first Sunday after the Nativity of the Blessed Virgin Mary. And then, when Our Lady started appearing, Our Lady said, dear children, that cross was in God's plan. Pray before the cross because many graces come from it. The first sign. Second sign, the Church of St. James. You've been in the church this morning. The church is nothing special. However, at the time when the priest, who was the same priest who decided to build the cross on Cross Mountain and to build the Church of St. James, it was all within 6 years difference. The cross was completed in 1934, early 1934, and he started feeling in his heart, we need to build this church and we need to build it at this spot. And it wasn't just far from the church where they already had. And the parish started complaining, and they were saying to him, Father, we already have this church. This church is way too big for our parish. We don't need this big church that you're planning to build. A few years ago, when they were reconstructing something in the basement of the parish office, they found the diary that this priest kept. And this diary was hidden for years. And people who were, in charge to do the work, they were actually, writing down, and some of them even wrote, God forgive us, but our priest lost his mind. That's how they felt. And he started construction in 1939. He was sent to Mostar in 1944. In 1945, on February 14, along with 8 other priests, he was killed by communists. And the church, exterior of the church was completed in 1969. The interior of the church, the pews, and the final details in May 1981. Our Lady appears in June 1981. The church becomes too small for everyone who wanted to be inside. They needed to break the doors on the side for the air to go in because there was no air conditioning and people were suffocating. I was 4 years old, and I remember coming to Medjugorje back in those days. And we would walk for miles because communists would prevent everyone by coming in a car. And so they would take the car keys from my father, and they would think if we take the car keys, nobody would walk to Medjugorje. We would all walk. So the worst part for me was getting into the church because I could never take any smell, and the smell was unbearable because it would be so many people, thousands of people, and in one pew you would have 5 different rows of people in one pew. Unbelievable, but that's how it was. Literally like sardines, packed. There was no sound system. Nobody could hear anything outside. The white gazebo that the Holy Mass is celebrating outdoors in the evening time, you will see tonight. It was there in 1987. Around the church was nothing, not even the road. So everything is much different nowadays. But I will try to say to you in the story that I will share that God created this, and God is keeping this from the very beginning. And one priest beautifully said when the apparition started, if this was something that was created by humans or it is product of any other ideology, it would be destroyed. But if this is something that was started by God, it will prevail everything, and it did. It survived communism regime. It survived a regime that was arresting people, that was putting them in prison, that was falsely accusing them, that was preventing them. At one point, they put the bars of the church and they didn't allow anyone to go inside. They wanted to keep the Eat and Pray program from not being held. They could never succeed. God would always make the way. The Blessed Mother would always make the way. And today we have what we have. And trust me, when I think about the grace that God has given to us in the last 44 years, I don't have enough words of gratitude to God for saving us all, or for at least trying to save us. Because we're not saved yet. We still have a journey. And I do not know what can happen to me in 5 years' time. Maybe I would lose my mind. Maybe I would go astray. Maybe I would go on a different path. We never know. But that's why Our Lady is here. And that's why her messages are here. So we could embrace these messages and be strongly rooted on a journey together. And you will realize after 7 days here in Medjugorje that this is the greatest gift that you will receive. The message of hope, the message of strength, the message of peace, the message of conversion that is for each one of us. Our Lady chooses Medjugorje. You see, God also used communists, because 6 months before the apparition started, a very special priest was sent to Medjugorje. His name was Father Jozef. He was the parish priest in the beginning of the apparitions. So Father Jozef was a famous, charismatic, strong priest who did very good work in a parish that was maybe 2-3 hours drive from Medjugorje. Communists realized that nobody in that entire town is joining the communism regime, and all of the youth is joining Franciscan order. So they wanted to remove the priest. And they had the authority to go to the provincial and to say to him, we want that priest to be removed from there. They had the authority to do that. And they told the provincial, you need to put him to the parish that is far from here, that nobody heard about, that is completely unknown, and that has many people living in it, a few people living in it. What was the parish?
Medjugorje.
Father Jozef was sent here 6 months before, and when he was sent, he was devastated. He felt really like becoming severely depressed, because he said, God, what did I do wrong to you that you sent me to this parish? He was starting to get to know people, and that's when the apparition started. Before the apparitions, another sign happened, and this sign happened in the house of one of the visionaries. We're talking about this specific house.
Yes.
The visionary, future visionary, would be Vitska. Her family lived a very simple life, very, very much in hard work and prayer. Her granny was known that she was like this woman who was sitting outside the house and saying countless rosaries every single day. And now, when I say countless rosaries, I really mean countless rosaries. Because my granny was exactly the same as Vitka's granny. And I would say every single granny was like Vitka's granny. We would be working. I was brought up in a town called Moster, and my mom was born in a village not far from here, maybe 15-20 minutes away. Life was exactly the same like Medjugorje parish. So I would be sent in the summertime to visit my grandparents, and when I would come there, I was okay to say maybe 2 rosaries, 3 rosaries a day. That was okay, you know, even if that would be too much for a child. But my granny, I would stop counting when she would be leading her 30th rosary, and it would only be 2 p.m. And by the time we got to the dinner, it's like 50 rosaries that she said. So one thing that I'm astonished was always the voice, because if I'm using my voice and talking for 2 hours, my voice would be, you know, like very much exhausted, and I wouldn't be able to keep it up. And they kept it up in a loud voice. They were able to do the work in the fields, with tobacco, with the vineyards, with their farms, and would know exactly that it's 10 Hail Marys or 5 Hail Marys or 7. How? I have no idea. It
Come and go down near
there
the
wasn't
priest.
any free time. There wasn't any chit-chatting. There wasn't any
Here, they go
gossiping.
there.
There wasn't any
There.
complaining. It was only hard work and prayer all day long. So Vicka's family lived exactly like that. Grandma was too old to work in the field, so she would do the stringing of tobacco and the work outside the house and pray the rosary. One day, her family was getting ready to go and work in the fields, and the brother is putting up the stuff on the trailer. It's April 1981. Our Lady is still not appearing. When he saw on the trailer, he saw these two huge big brown rosaries that you have see here in the photo. He was shocked. First, he never saw such rosaries in his life, and he didn't know where they came from. And you need to know that back in those days, if any one of us, we were a regular family, and we only had one simple plastic rosary beads in our family. Simple plastic beads. Simple. Because it was communism regime. Communists could enter, search the houses. If they see the cross, the statue, you're arrested, and you couldn't buy any of that. So they were shocked. The rosaries looked exquisite. They asked around the house, nobody said that the rosaries were theirs, and then they took the rosaries to Father Jozo, and he asked the parish and the Sunday Holy Mass, did anyone lose these rosaries? So for 2 months, they had no idea about the background of the rosaries. They just kept them. When Our Lady started appearing, Vicka's grandmother said to Vicka, please ask Our Lady about those rosaries. And Our Lady said, those rosaries are my gift to you and to your family for being so pious and so faithful to God in all of these years. Our Lady explained that the beads were made from the tree that grew in Holy Land at the time of Jesus' crucifixion. So the beads would be 2,000 years old. That the cross is gold and can be opened, and inside the cross is a relic of the true cross in which Jesus was crucified. Gold is of exquisite quality that doesn't exist on earth. Scientists were taking parts of the rosary for examination, and everything was confirmed. They're kept in the house of Vicka the Visionary. They don't look like they looked at the beginning because many people have stolen parts from it, and also scientific investigation, they needed to take parts of it. Father Joseph received exactly the same rosary when he was in prison, when he was arrested, and he prayed to God to have physical connection with God. And when he woke up once, he found this rosary in his arm. He still has it. He's been holding that rosary in his arm for the last 44 years. Now, if I have a rosary, my rosary, if it is wooden, it's changing. The beads are becoming smaller. It would rip, something would happen. His rosary is exactly the same, so the rosaries are not aging. That's the beautiful part. And Our Lady confirmed all of that. You see, those are just little signs what God was doing, how he was preparing this parish. The apparition started on June 24th, 1981. It was the feast day of St. John the Baptist. They wouldn't go to the fields, they wouldn't work in the fields on the feast days. Kids were always joking, and they would say we were always upset or sad when it would happen that the feast day falls on Sunday, because that means you're losing one day and the rest was very precious. So that day, they just decided to take a walk and to, just play around and have some time for themselves. We're talking about heat, we're talking about late June. So they went from, the road that we took now outside Vicka's house didn't exist. There were only few houses in their neighborhood, and none of the houses looked like it looks today. Few are still the same, and I'll show them to you, so you get an idea how they look like. One day, two girls who decided to take a walk were Ivanka and Mediana. Ivanka was a girl whose mother died in April that same year. Ivanka was only 15 years old. Her mom was 37 years old. She was devastated and heartbroken. She was very shy. And Ivanka and Mediana took this walk straight up. Vicka was asleep. They wanted her to join them. So they said to her mother where to find them if she wakes up. And it was around 6 o'clock in the afternoon. As they walked on their way back, looking at this hill It was a regular hill in the village. The word Medjugorje means between the hills, between the mountains. You see the hills over there, going in a circle like that. And this was hill that was called Medjugorje. Just shepherds would occasionally go up with sheep to get more pasture because sheep could not be in the fields. Fields were kept for the crops and vineyards and all of that. They were walking and they noticed that in the middle of the hill, they were able to see this beautiful vision. It was an image. It wasn't like a person. It was a vision of the Blessed Mother holding baby Jesus in her arms. She's over there with the baby Jesus, and this is the image that they typically get, the apparition that looks like this, Our Lady on Christmas Day. And she was inviting them to come closer. Ivanka said, immediately in my heart, I was able to know that was the Blessed Mother. She said, I didn't have a single doubt it wasn't the Blessed Mother. She said to Mirjana, look, Mirjana, there's Our Lady up there on the hill. And Mirjana didn't even want to look because she was too afraid and she thought like Our Lady would appear to us. However, they looked, they saw the vision, they continued walking, and they found few other children that joined them spontaneously from the village. One of them was also Vitska. And as they saw them, they invited them to go closer and to see if they would see the same vision. They all did. They got so afraid, nobody went up, they came home, they shared the news with the family members. The families were very upset at them because back in those days, you couldn't even say any, you couldn't speak publicly about religion, you couldn't speak publicly about God, about the prayer, nothing, you know, it was forbidden. These kids never knew of the possibility that the Blessed Mother could appear. They never heard of Lourdes, they never heard of Fatima. We were living in a communist country when the information were not given to us. Kids were having religious classes, but they would just learn prayers and something from the catechism of the Catholic Church. Nothing more than that. They all were sure it was the Blessed Mother. They were rebuked by their family members. Eva said, I came home and I locked myself in a room and I was thinking, I don't want to go out. What if I go out and the vision comes again? And the following day, even though they were not in the same home, in the same neighborhood, there was no way of communicating. Each one of them, around 6 o'clock in the afternoon, the time of the apparition, felt in their heart that they need to come here, just outside the road where we will be shortly. As they felt that, they went from their homes and about 16, 17 people from the village joined them out of curiosity. Kids were then staying together. 2 visionaries who saw Our Lady on the first day didn't come on that day. 2 others came instead of them, and they will become future visionaries. And even though they were not standing together, even though there was nothing specifically especially happening, only 6 of them were able to see 3 flashes of the light. They followed the light, and the light was taking them to the hill. And everyone around them was able to see that it wasn't as if they were climbing this hill, and there was no trail, no path like it exists now. It was as if something was taking them up. Like, they said within a few moments they happened to be on the apparition site. The site and the place was chosen by the Blessed Mother. The other people tried to catch up with them. Hardly anyone was able to follow them. Only 2 people were able to follow it. It took them 45 minutes. And by the time they got to the spot where they were, their skin was all ripped and the clothes was ripped and they were having bruises and they were bleeding and cuts because they had to go through thorns. Literally through the thorns. You will see how the hill looked like. And you know, like even if you have a sheep or you get caught in these thorns, it's mission impossible to be, you know, delivered out of that. They found them kneeling in the same spot, looking in the same spot, kneeling around. Jacob was kneeling and there were wasps all around him. He didn't have a single bite. Their lips were moving, but there was no sound coming out. It is the same phenomenon like the visionaries in Fatima had. And we had scientists that were especially investigating that, because even many times we would be around them and we would look at their lips at the time of the apparition. And it's impossible to read that. It's not Croatian language, it's not any language, and we know that Our Lady speaks to them Croatian, but we're not able to get anything from their lips. first apparition was there. Our Lady introduced herself as the Blessed Virgin Mary, Queen of Peace. She told him that she has chosen this parish because she found many strong believers here. That was in 1918. And I just told you what the life used to be like before. If Our Lady was choosing now, I don't think that she would choose the same. But in 1981, they had strong faith and great confidence in God. I grew up with that, and I can witness that to you. The confidence in God, it's something that was even frustrating to me. Like my granny would always just repeat, God will provide, God will provide. I could hear her saying that maybe 50 times a day. I hardly say that now, once a week, or once in a month. She would say, God will provide. That was the faith. People, the missionaries returned, and people followed, and they explained what happened, and they went up again. Already on the third day of the apparitions, there were thousands of people who came. How did the news spread around? It's a miracle, because we didn't have phones. People didn't even have cars. But I remember we received the news about the apparitions already on the fourth day, and we were living in a town, communist town. And when that happened, everyone, like my father and his friends, there were people were literally knocking on the doors of all of the other people, even if they didn't know them, and even if just they knew that these are Catholic people, and they would say to them, Our Lady appeared in Medjugorje.
Bliss.
What? Where is Medjugorje? Nobody knew where Medjugorje was. For the first 7 days, the apparitions were held up on the hill, and Our Lady was seeing the visionaries up on the hill. On the 7th day, July 4th, communists come with 2,000 fully armed soldiers, and they only had one task, that was to destroy everything that was happening here. The soldiers were instructed by their superiors that these people in Medjugorje parish are the most dangerous people in Yugoslavia. And they are trying to destroy the communism regime, and this was the most rigid accusation that you could get. You go to prison straight away for that. So these soldiers came here with that knowledge, and they were shocked when they came here and realized it's just a village. They would be assigned to be around the houses of the missionaries with guns, with big military vehicles. And then conversions started happening to these soldiers. Why? Because mothers and women from the village were giving them food, drinks. It was heat. They would hear the story, they would see miracles happening, and they were going for confessions. And then our communists realized we need to do something to change this. In the beginning, the first person who started believing was Father Joseph, who had a miracle himself. He called the bishop. Bishop believed. The first bishop supported Medjugorje for the first month and a little bit more than 1 month. He publicly said on July 25, the children are not lying, the apparitions are for real. Then communists thought, oh, we have to blackmail this bishop. They found some material against him, they blackmailed him, he changes the story overnight. They thought nobody would be coming to Medjugorje because now Bishop is saying all of this is a lie. People were coming in bigger numbers. Then they say, okay, we need to arrest the parish priest. The sheep would scatter when the shepherd is arrested. Yep. They arrested him on August 17, sentenced him to 3.5 years and put him to the worst prison in Yugoslavia. They had to release him after 18 months because so many conversions and miracles were happening in the prison that it was worse for them to have him in the prison than to have him there. And they said that he's never allowed to come to Medjugorje again. And he was put to the parish far from here, Tihanina. And then people started going to Tihanina. They thought nobody would go there, everyone was going there. One of the priests said if this was something that was started by humans, it would be destroyed. But this remained. Even in the years of the communism regime, even in the years when children were no longer allowed to go to the hill, they were no longer allowed to go from July 4th, it became restricted area. Our Lady would appear to kids wherever they were. That's how she was happening to be appearing in this house, the Vitska, for more than 18 years. Every single day, sometimes even a few times a day. This house is blessed with Our Lady's presence on thousands of occasions. And this is still going on. The visionaries, 3 of them, still see the Blessed Mother every single day. Those are Vitska, Ivan, and Maria. The first one who stopped having daily apparitions was Mirjana, then Ivanka, and then Jakob. Ivanka was the first one who saw Our Lady. And when she saw Our Lady, she asked her, "Who are you?" Our Lady said, "I'm the Blessed Virgin Mary, Queen of Peace." Then the second question was, "Where's my mom?" Because her mom just died. And Our Lady said, "Your mom is with me." Ivanka said that she's a living witness that life after this life exists, because she was able to see her mom on 8 different occasions. Exactly the same as she sees each one of us. She said that her mom looked terrible when she died, exhausted with illness, broken in body. Her body was absolutely beautiful when she saw her. No traces of illness, no traces of death. She spoke to her mom told her that she's proud of her. And Ivanka says, the last time I saw her was on my last daily apparition, which was on May 7th, 1985. Jakob stopped seeing Our Lady every day in 1998. These 3 visionaries were entrusted 10 secrets, and they see Our Lady once a year, and they will continue seeing her once a year until the end of their lives. The others visionaries have received 9 secrets. Once they receive the 10th secret each, the apparitions will stop. We do not know when that is going to take place. It could take place in 2 days, in 2 weeks, in 20 years, 2 years. Nobody knows that. We know for sure that Our Lady tells us that this is the time of grace. And now we come to the most important part. It's not about the visionaries. It's not about the extraordinary experience that some of them had. It's about what the Blessed Mother has been trying to convey to us here. Because she appeared in the communist country, in an unknown village where people had strong faith. I told you what the life was about. We lived in the communism regime when we had we had only one chocolate bar, and it wasn't even chocolate. It's available nowadays, and when I go to, I saw it a couple of times in the shops, and I bought it to my little girl, and I tasted one bite, and oh my God, I threw it away instantly. It's just sugar colored with something. There was no cocoa inside. We only had that. And imagine what we have nowadays. It wasn't difficult to fast. It wasn't difficult to renounce. It wasn't difficult to do the penance that Our Lady was asking us to do. Because people lived that on a daily basis, and they were happy to live that. And Our Lady, she promised that when these other visionaries receive the secret, the apparitions will stop. She told us that while she's still with us here on earth, this is the time of grace. She said, "Dear children, what I started in Fatima, I'm going to finish in Medjugorje. My Immaculate Heart will triumph." The secrets are about the triumph of Our Lady's heart. After the secrets are revealed, the triumph of Our Lady's heart will take place. We only know that part of the third secret is about Our Lady leaving a permanent sign on the hill where we will go to. The sign is going to be visible by everyone. No one will be able to destroy it. Everyone will be able to see it. It will stay there until the end of the world, and it will be a proof that God was with us. Our Lady was appearing. Our Lady says, "Dear children, when the sign appears, millions of people will be running to Medjugorje, wanting to believe, but it will be too late for them." Remember this, it will be too late for them. In the beginning, the visionaries were asking Our Lady, why don't you leave a sign so the other people would stop accusing us? They were accused in the beginning a lot, even by the local government. And the lady said, yes, I will leave a sign. And honestly, I remember that for the first few years, my father would come to Medjugorje nearly every night, and whoever would go to Medjugorje would be able to go because the communists. When they would come back, the first question we would all ask was, did Our Lady leave a sign? And then one point we just stopped asking about the sign because we realized it's not happening yet. Thank God that I have the faith that I don't need a sign. I just need a sign to believe that Our Lady was appearing, and she's still appearing with us every single day here. Our Lady said, blessed are those who believe without seeing. And then we come to this moment where Our Lady gently extended her invitation. First, she introduced herself as the Queen of Peace. The message that she gave on the third day of the apparitions was the first official message, and she said, peace, 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 and only peace must be there between God and men, and must reign among all men. Our Lady did that as the visionaries were getting down. She said that on the hill, and I'll show you that spot when we go there. And many people could not relate that peace. We didn't understand because we thought we lived in a peaceful country. In July 1981, everyone who was in the church ground, including Father Joseph, including my own dad, thousands of people could see that one afternoon, cross on Cross Mountain, you saw it clearly, right? Big cross, you could see it. The cross disappeared, and everyone was able to see a big fire instead of a cross. Huge fire. And out of the fire, the words came out, M-I-R. Me, in our language, means peace. And this was like a big cloud that was dancing in the sky and stayed for half an hour. We didn't have cameras to record that. So Our Lady gives this message about peace. Then Our Lady invites us to conversion. And the invitation to conversion came through a very beautiful and very moving event that happened in the very first weeks and very first days of the apparitions. When Our Lady said conversion, I know that we've talked about that a lot, and I remember hearing people talking about that. And I know that even now there are many people around who think if Our Lady says conversion, she doesn't mean that. You know what I mean. If you are one of these people, please know that this is the biggest delusion you would have about yourself. Because Our Lady needs each one of us. Conversion is not just for people from China or Islamic countries. It's for us who are traditional Catholics and who maybe think I'm doing everything in the right way. People in this village thought that they were doing everything the right way. Our Lady chose them because of their faith. And yet 2 weeks after that, Our Lady does this beautiful example. She appeared to Maria in the church, and she said to Maria, please go and find as many people as you can. I will meet you in the fields. And Our Lady showed a specific spot in the fields here, not far from here. And it was a spot where for generations, for centuries, the wheat was separated from the chaff. And Our Lady says to Maria, this is where I will meet you, and I will appear to you here, and invite all of the people to come there. And about 60 people came. It was nearly midnight. And then Our Lady said, all these people who are here can touch me. And she said, how are they going to touch you when they don't see you? And she said, take their hands to where I am. So even if I close my eyes, I'm able to feel the person that's right here. You can feel the person, each one of us. That's what everyone felt. They felt they were touching a real person. They felt different sensations. They smelled the roses. They felt electricity, heat, but nobody was able to see that every single hand, Our Lady, when she appears, she's like 1 meter above the ground in a cloud. And so there were stains on her dress. And the missionaries started crying, and they asked Our Lady what that means. And she said, these are the sins of people who touched me. Go to confession, dear children. And the people started crying. They were heartbroken. They were weeping. They were all hugging, kissing, reconciling among each other. Then they came and woke up everyone in the entire village. By 2 a.m., everyone was up. And Father Joseph, who was a parish priest here, you know, he didn't believe straight away the apparitions. He was thinking for a good few weeks that kids are crazy. He was sleeping in the parish office at 2 o'clock in the morning, and as he was sleeping in his parish office, he heard people screaming outside, and they were calling him, Father, Father. He had no idea what was happening. And then he opened the doors, and he said, I saw these thousands, hundreds of people. And as he saw him, he said, what's wrong? And they said, Father, we need to confess. He told them, okay, come tomorrow. They said, we cannot come tomorrow. We need to confess straight away. So he said, I started confessing these people, and he was confessing them until noon the following day. He needed even to call other priests from the area to come and to help him in the confessions. I was beaten by mosquitoes, and I'm looking something just. There are many here around us. Father Joseph said that night was the night of the biggest graces. That night was the night of reconciliation. And that night was the night when the phenomenon in Medjugorje started that has been ongoing for the last 44 years. Confessions. It is the biggest gift you can give to yourself when you go to confession. Even if you confess recently, many people here in Medjugorje, they say that confessions in Medjugorje are completely different. Somehow, through the grace of God, they're able to recall things that they did in the past. They're able to come out with these sins, and they're able to receive the healing. And I would even say to you, it's not just about our sins. Very many times it's our wounds. Very many times we carry unforgiveness. All these things can be obstacle in our physical healing. I do not know whether you notice that, but it is, in this time when health is becoming like this god all over, and it's only promoted, be healthy, eat healthy, stay healthy, be young, do this, do that. There's nothing wrong with that. God never wanted anyone else to be sick or even to die. It wasn't God's plan, but we live in a fallen world. However, our body and our physical appearance and our physical health is very much connected with what we carry inside. So if inside I'm carrying unforgiveness, if I'm carrying jealousy, if I'm carrying envy, if I'm holding grudges, then that's going to be visible on my face. Then I'm going to be constantly sick because of that. I might have blood pressure or sugar in my blood or arthritis or pain or that. All of that is connected, trust me. Through Medjugorje, when my conversion started, I can witness to you. I was very young when I had my first accident. Then I had lots of physical challenges, lots of problems, lots of health problems. But when I started going to confession, when I started taking out everything, it was changed. Like I had blood pressure 100, once it would be like 220 over 170. That's not normal for a person who's only 30 years old. And I had unforgiveness. And when I started forgiving and going before the Blessed Sacrament, my blood pressure was fine. Our Lady is trying to teach us that. I'm just giving you one small example. That's the school where you came to. Medjugorje is a school of prayer. And the first thing you need to do when you come to the school of prayer is leave your past behind. At the moment, there's a beautiful priest that comes from Canada twice a year just to confess people in Medjugorje. He says, I cannot live as a priest without hearing confessions in Medjugorje. His priesthood was changed hearing confessions in Medjugorje. And there are so many stories of healing, of tremendous healing, and tremendous conversions that happened due to confession. So don't miss that out. Priests are available from 5 o'clock during the time of the rosary, and they stay there until people are there to confess. And you can do it as many days as you wish. Also, while we were here in Medjugorje, in this year, Medjugorje received this beautiful gift from the Holy Father, so you could receive plenary indulgence twice a day. Twice a day, only here in Medjugorje. But you need to be in the state of grace, and now receive Holy Communion. And after Holy Communion, you say, "Pray, Our Father, Hail Mary, and glory be for the intentions of the Holy Father." One indulgence can be offered for soul, and the other one for yourself. Make use of this while you're here. Our Lady spoke about prayer. Conversion was the first one. Confession, she invites us to confess at least once a month. Then she invites us to say the rosary every day. That is why before the Holy Mass we say 2 rosaries, and after Holy Mass we say another rosary. And that is just to seal the graces we receive during the Holy Mass. Our Lady wants us to fast on bread and water Wednesdays and Fridays. Very challenging message. In the beginning, I told you, it was easy for us to fast during the time of the communism regime because you didn't get that much food. The food was very simple, and people ate very little food in a day and worked very hard. Nowadays, we're eating all the time, and it's much more difficult to do that. I would say, even if your health or your age prevents you from fasting on bread and water, give it a chance. There's something that we can do to renounce, give up something. It can be sweet, it can be treat, it can be dessert, it can be coffee, it can be whatever. You can eat just plain food, very simple plain food. And you can do fasting. Fasting is for our personal benefit. Our God can do without our fasting, but Our Lady is trying to teach us to be free and to be not depending on the things from this world and not to be addicted to the things around us. And the best way to renounce evil and Satan is by fasting. Our Lady tells us, when you pray, dear children, you will have peace. But when you pray, when you fast, you will not be afraid of evil or the future. And please remember this, because nowadays Satan is trying to enslave us, and so many people are afraid. You probably noticed that, am I right? All around, fearing for economy, fearing for a job, fearing for children, fearing for a future, fearing for my heart, for my health, for this, for that. Oh my God, name it. The Lady gives us a recipe here in Medjugorje. And 44 years, she's been extending that invitation to fasting all the time. Why? Because she knows it is for us. We would be free. Satan doesn't want us to be free. So try that. If you cannot try now while you're in a pilgrimage, you try that when you go back home. If I'm not able to say no to the cookie or to the sweet, how am I saying no to the sin? The most important is what takes place in the church and it's a Holy Eucharist. Our Lady wants us also to read the Holy Bible every day. But she says the center of our lives should be the Holy Mass. Jesus in the Holy Mass. That is the center. So every day, even if you're missing English Holy Mass, I would dare to say that the morning Holy Mass is less important than the evening Holy Mass. So if you're thinking, I don't want to go to 2, it's too much. If you need to make a choice, let that choice always be the choice of the evening Holy Mass. Because all of the graces, all of the healings, all of the miracles are taking place at that time. Okay? Don't take me wrong. I didn't say that Holy Mass in the morning is not good. No, the evening prayer program is what Our Lady wanted.
Yes.
And she wants us all to be there. That's why you need radios to be able to receive the translation, and that's why you need to be there. Because of 5 o'clock the rosary starts. 5:40 is the apparition time. Our Lady says, and just a few weeks ago I was able to be with Ivan and I was translating for the apparition for the priest. And Ivan said that when Our Lady appeared, she blessed him and talked to him and blessed all the priests who were in his chapel. And then he says, something that happens every single night and we kind of forget it. I said that to pilgrims thousands of times, but when I try to imagine that, it makes such a big difference. And he says, for some time, after blessing us and after praying for us here, Our Lady goes to the church and she blesses everyone in the church and prays for
I'm the
everyone
organizer.
in the church. That's what happens every single night. So 5:40, you do not want to be in Columbus or around or anywhere. You want to be on the church ground. And you want to give your heart and your petitions and your prayers to the Blessed Mother. And she's blessing you. 5:40 every night. And then Holy Mass starts at 6 o'clock. After Holy Mass, today is Tuesday, am I right? We have adoration. Blessed Sacrament. Thursday also adoration. Wednesday and Sunday and Monday prayers for healing the body and the soul. That is something that you could not be missing. It is so important that you are there for that. Because that is the center. All of the healings and miracles happen in Medjugorje during the time of evening prayer program. Our Lady still appears to three of the missionaries, Vitka, Ivan, and Maria. Maria receives a monthly message every single month. Vitka lives in the parish not far from here. She was seeing Our Lady inside this house, inside this room, for nearly 18 years every single day. Vitka, if you ask me, is one of the most special visionaries because she received with great grace. Even before receiving the grace of seeing physically heaven, purgatory, and hell, they were physically taken. Yaakov and herself. She was asked by a lady, she was only 16 years old when the Christian started. And I always try to kind of like relate that to pilgrims. And I say, imagine when we were 16, we had plans for a future. We're dreaming of something. And Our Lady appears to her, and Our Lady says to her, Vitka, I don't want you to go to school anymore. I want you to stay in Medjugorje and to be there with all the pilgrims. And without hesitation, she accepted that. She started, to be here, and she didn't return to the school. And in July 1981, Our Lady she was taking care of little Yaakov, who was her far cousin. He was the youngest of the missionaries. He was mostly persecuted by the communists because he was the youngest, and the communists told we would break this child first. We had Secret Service agents that were hired, and they were questioning these kids for hours. They did so many scientific examinations with them that they were never conducted in the whole world. What they did to them here, first by communists and then by the Catholic Church. Every single scientific and medical examination concluded with the words, this is supernatural phenomenon that the medicine cannot explain. Yaakov would be interrogated by Secret Service agents. We found once a tape that was probably left by mistake by communists. They were not very happy when the tape was published. And the tape showed just the end of this interrogation that lasted for 88 hours. A little child, 9 years old, and this guy was furious. And afterwards, he just bangs his hands on the table, and Yaakov is sitting there, and he throws something, and he says, you are just a big liar. And this little child really starts crying. He says, no, I'm not a liar. If it takes, I'm willing to give my life for Our Lady. They were disarmed. This little child would have died. He was ready to die for the Blessed Mother. In July 1981, when the soldiers were keeping the kids in the houses, thinking that they would prevent them from seeing the Blessed Mother, but the Blessed Mother would appear to them in the houses. Our Lady appeared to Vitka and Yaakov while they were in the house of Yaakov. And we have proofs, even with these communists who were taking soldiers who were taking care of them, that they were physically missing for half an hour. Half an hour from this world. Yaakov's mom was here. She's fixing the food. She looks back, two of them are gone. She thought that the soldiers grabbed them. She was screaming at the soldiers and saying to them, bring them back. Where did you take them? The soldiers had not seen them. What happened was that Our Lady appeared, and Our Lady told the dear children, now I will take you with me to visit heaven, purgatory, and hell. And Yaakov started to cry. He thought they were going, never coming back. And so he said to Our Lady, please take Mitzvah. She has 8 brothers and sisters. My mom only has me. And the lady smiled and just told them that she's taking them for a visit. And Mitzvah said, in those moments, we wondered, where do we go? How do we go? What happens? And the lady just took us by hand and the ceiling opened for them to go through. And within a second, they were outside the gate of heaven. In heaven, they saw this beautiful endless space that cannot be described in our human words. All of the visionaries have seen heaven, the 2 of them were physically in heaven. And they said that they have no words to describe the beauty in heaven. And it wasn't just about beauty, it was more about the feeling of content, the feeling of fullness, the feeling that this is the place where you belong, this is the place where God created your soul. They were able to recognize everyone in heaven, regardless of the fact that they didn't know these people. Everyone looked like they were 30 years old. Ritzka is so funny when she describes that. She says, there were no tall people, no short people, no fat people, no slim people. Everyone had beautiful, perfect body in heaven. We just need to get to heaven.
Amen.
And it's for eternity. Anyway, Our Lady showed them that there were no traces of disability, no traces of illnesses. They never wanted to leave heaven. And then Our Lady said to them that this is what God has planned for each one of us. And what God wants is that when we die, we bring our own holiness to Him as a gift. That's why she's among us, to teach us that. For us to become holy, for us to be able to come to God. Our Lady tried to explain to them, it is right here on earth where we choose where to end up when we die. It is right here on earth where our lives, we choose where we will end up when we die. Don't forget this. Then they were taken to purgatory. In purgatory, they didn't see anyone. They could only hear the suffering of the souls. They could see this endless space covered with ashes. They could see that souls were suffering so much. And Our Lady explained to them that these souls in purgatory cannot do anything for themselves. They completely depend on our prayers. And Our Lady explained to them that if a soul, if a person on earth suffers for 10 years, please don't forget this, 10 years of the worst physical and spiritual suffering on earth cannot be compared to 10 minutes of suffering in the purgatory. That's very scary, isn't it? And the lady said that there are so many souls that are forgotten, not just by religions who don't know about the purgatory, because they would end up there too, but among us. And I'm sure that each one of us has at least once in our lives said, when somebody died, oh, he was so good or she was so good, I'm sure she's in heaven or he's in heaven. Am I right? You said that?
Yeah.
And then we forget to pray for these people or to offer holy masses for them. And maybe these holy people in our eyes are stuck in the purgatory for hundreds or thousands of years. I don't know if you read about Maria Sima. She's a beautiful mystic,
Yes.
who also had revelations about the souls in purgatory. She was taking the suffering for the priest that would have been in the purgatory until the end of the world, and he was in the purgatory for 1,300 years at the time when she took the suffering for him. 1,300 years, and he would have stayed until the end of the world. You also know that in Fatima, the visionaries were asked by the people in the village to ask about 2 girls who had recently died. And a lady said one of the girls is going to be released from the purgatory soon, but the other girl will stay in the purgatory until the end of the world. She was 19 years old. That's our reality. That's why Our Lady is here. And with Our Lady, there are no compromises. She wants us to be holy. She wants us to be holy. She wants to teach us how to become holy. She wants us to give up our past, to give up the simple way of life, to choose God, to choose conversion, to choose penance, to choose confession, to choose prayer, trust me, you could be praying, you could be even going to the church, and at the same time you could be doing everything wrong. Each one of us, by not forgiving or by having maybe, like hatred in our hearts. I see that on a daily basis. And it's so scary that, we just need to wake up. And how do we wake up? This is the place where God is waking us up all. Then the visionaries were taken to hell. They were physically in hell. They could see that every single moment somebody was coming to hell. In the beginning they looked like humans, and then they enter into this big sea of fire, and when they come out of the sea of fire, they look like beasts, like demons. Hell is for eternity, and nobody can be saved from hell, but we can save souls from getting into hell. And a lady, she wanted the visionaries to know and to witness to each one of us that that's reality. So we here on earth are making decision where we would end up when we die. If we are holding on to God, if we want to become better, if we're striving to become better, of course we're choosing heaven. If we're constantly postponing our conversion, or even living in the sin, or even trying to, balance between the world and God, which is, there's no balance between world and God, you know that. Especially for the people who are younger. One priest here in Medjugorje recently said at one Holy Mass, it was just Creation Holy Mass, and he said, if you are following God 80% of your life, but 20% you're following the world and what the world is trying to give you and offer to you, then you are following Satan, he said. People get out from the church. People got out from the church. They were so upset. They didn't want to hear that. That's true. That's true. There are no compromises. Our Lady here in Medjugorje gives these beautiful, simple messages because she loves us. She said, if you knew how much I love you, you would cry of joy. She wants us all to be saved. She wants us to end up in heaven. And after this visit to heaven for the three of them, when two of them were returned, Vitska was devastated. They were both crying. And then Vitska said, Our Lady, is there anything that we could do? And Our Lady said, yes, dear children, if you want, you will suffer. So she accepted the suffering without even asking Our Lady what kind of suffering, how long did it last, when it would finish. Without hesitation, she embraced it. She became sick straight away. She's been sick for the last 44 years. And trust me, her condition now is much worse than it was 20 years ago or 40 years ago. And I believe that her condition is also connected to the world now. Because if it is worse for the world, if it's worse for us in the world, then it's becoming worse for her. She suffers without complaining. She's now so sick that she's not even able to pronounce the word, to say a word. She's in a huge pain, and she's carrying that pain with joy. So, God, Our Lady, 2 months ago, she told us, dear children, offer sacrifices. Really offer penance and offer sacrifices. There's so much that we can do. Our Lady tries to convey through the visionaries that this life on earth, regardless of how long we live in this life, even if it is 70, 80, 100 years, 110, maybe maximum, it's like a blink of an eye comparing to eternity. Please don't forget that, a blink of an eye comparing to eternity. We were created for eternity. We were created for heaven. Our home is in heaven. Our Lady appeared out of pure love because she wants us to see us. She wants to bring us to heaven. She said, when I started in Medjugorje, I'm completing in Medjugorje. When I started in Fatima, I'm going to complete in Medjugorje. My mental heart will triumph. Our Lady promised that the final battle between good and evil, between God and Satan, will be held here in Medjugorje. And after that, we will live in a new time, the triumph of Our Lady's heart. Nothing will be as it is right now. Everything will change. And this time is a preparation for that. Our Lady explained, dear children, imagine that you live here, and from here you need to go there. That's where the triumph is. You, dear children, need to cross the bridge to go from here to there. And do you know what Our Lady said? Do you know what is the bridge? The priests, exactly. Only few people know the answer to that. It's priests. That's why Satan is attacking the Catholic Church so much in the last, I would even dare to say, centuries. He knows that without holy, good, strong priests, we are the ladies
Can you tell them where to talk?
Our Lady
Often tell them where to talk, but they keep it down.
many penances and many sacrifices from us. Last 2 years, she's been appearing up on the hill for 9 days before the anniversary, asking us to come there for 9 days to do the novena, to do the prayers. Only in the last 2 years, she never asked that. And in the end, she said to the visionaries, dear children, because of your prayer, because of your sacrifices, a little part of my plan is going to be realized. So imagine how much more we need to pray for your plan to be revealed and realized. And please decide to pray for the priests today. Pray for all of the priests, because they're attacked much more than we are. And without them being holy, without them being strongly connected to Our Lady under her mantle, the triumph is not taking place. There are many mystical revelations. One of my favorite is Maria Valtorta, and Our Lady many times here in Medjugorje even said in her messages, dear children, if you want to get to know the life of my son and my life, read books of Maria Valtorta. Have you heard of Maria
Yes.
Valtorta?
And Pope Francis asked that it be promoted. Pope Francis asked that it be promoted.
Oh, he did?
Yes, I just saw a video the other day. I was amazed for an Irish guy from Knock, and he was speaking about Pope Francis because he's promoting Maria Valtorta, but Pope Francis encouraged the promotion of it.
Our Lady spoke about that a few times here in Medjugorje, and she said that, and Jesus says to Maria Valtorta that in the end times there would only be 1/10 of the priests that would be good priests. 1/10. So that's why we need to pray so much. We need to sacrifice ourselves, and we need to finally decide, yes, God, this is the time for personal conversion. This is the time to give up my past. This is the time where absolutely, like, just try to imagine like this. If this life is a blink of an eye, and it is a blink of an eye compared to eternity, so what's the problem then? Am I right? For each one of us. What's holding me from not forgiving, from not deciding for holiness, or not deciding to become good? Nothing here is worth risking our eternity. Don't forget that. So we'll spend some time in the room where Lady appeared. You can go there slowly, individually, in small groups, and then we'll meet outside, and then